a really good friend of mine helped me to realize that there was a role, a job that was going to give me the opportunity to work and travel throughout the world, see some very influential people like Michael Dell, Bill Gates, Jack Nasser, Ken Chenault. These were CEOs of big companies at the time. And for 5 years, this guy who never thought I would leave Columbus, Ohio, had a chance to work and travel throughout some 58 countries.
You're being around these high-level guys, and I had the luck of being around a lot of high-level guys in different areas as well. I think you would agree with me is that at the end of the day, these people are just people.
What's happening, and we see it all the time, is every single day your phone rings because of the title you have. The day you leave your corporate role or the day you exit your company, your phone stops ringing. People don't need you like they did before.
I want the audience to hear this. You want to be the best. Find some, and also get some peers that are at that level that can keep holding you accountable and reflecting back to you. I'm here with Billy Keels. I want to hear about this guy's origin story. He's done some really awesome stuff and around some high-level guys that I'm very interested in. Billy, can you introduce yourself to the audience and just tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, Mark, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity, man. Your vibe is super, it's just great. And I've appreciated just being in touch and the first conversation now. But yeah, it's one of these things that the origin story, I guess I can kind of start where we are today. That's probably the thing, because all of the things that have happened for me in my life have brought me to this point. And so as somebody who today is in a world where I actually control my time, and responsible for the relationships that I continue to invest in, it didn't always start this way. I have been through very, very challenging times, even very recently, having recently gone through a divorce, having gone through, after 26 years of a corporate life that was very successful, that I enjoyed a lot, experience what it's like to also have people that are in business with you that don't have the same value system as you do. Before that, being a kid from Columbus, Ohio, very Midwest, I watched both of my parents work 2 jobs most of their lives just to be able to make ends meet, put us in the right school systems, and then get to college or university. And at the time, I never thought I was going to leave Ohio, Mark. I thought it was just going to be like, maybe I was going to leave the university I went to. It's Miami of Ohio. Big shouts out to all the Redhawks out there. But I got rejected from my dream job twice, not once, but twice, Mark. And I thought the world was over because I was a good student, A student, but didn't get my dream job. So unfortunately, this is when the relationships in my life came into play. And while I was dejected and sad and felt like a failure, a really good friend of mine helped me to realize that there was a role, a job that was going to give me the opportunity to work and travel throughout the world, see some very influential people like Michael Dell, Bill Gates, Jack Nasser, Ken Chenault. These were CEOs of big companies at the time. And for 5 years, this guy who never thought I would leave Columbus, Ohio, had a chance to work and travel throughout some 58 countries. And that really just completely changed my worldview of the things that were happening for me in life. And at the same time, at the end of that career, I started realizing that I was missing emotionally important events, like friends of mine that were getting married or having kids and time with family, because I was working and traveling 25 to 28 days a month for that 5-year period. So I took a 1-year sabbatical back in September of 2001. I got accepted at a university in Paris, France. And so the idea was to move to Paris for 1 year. I was going to learn French language and culture. I wanted to learn how to salsa dance, and I wanted to learn more about wine. And what I can tell you, just to bring us to today, is it has been 25 years. I left Paris, moved to a town called Montpellier in the south of France. I lived in Italy and Sardinia, and I've been living in Barcelona, Spain for the last 20 years. And so along the way, as I mentioned, 26 years of corporate career. While I was in corporate, life was really, really good, but I started recognizing that I didn't control my time. I really, really liked it a lot. And it wasn't until, unfortunately, my father got really ill in 2021 after the pandemic. And I had been building a business or multiple businesses on the side while I was in my, multiple 6-figure salary, because I was working in the enterprise software space. And I didn't want to keep asking my boss if I could fly from Barcelona, Spain to the East Coast of the United States to be there with family and my dad while he was going through procedures. And so fortunately, I had been building businesses on the side for 8 years of my last 26 years. So the last 4 years of my corporate career, actually, Mark, I didn't need the paychecks. I was just going to the job because I liked being able to sit down with CEOs from multi-billion euro companies and helping them solve enterprise-wide problems. But once that happened with my dad, then it was time for me to leave the corporate life. And since then, as I mentioned to you before, as I bring it back to present day, I'm now in a place where I own my time. I have multiple opportunities to spend or invest time with my kids. I have a business that I really enjoy and pour into my clients. And yeah, all these things continue to happen for me, man. Wait, there's one thing that I do want to add.
Let's do it.
Only because we were chatting about this before. As a guy from Columbus, Ohio, and having had these different experiences in life, I've been very fortunate to work and travel throughout 90 different countries at this point. And I've also learned four additional languages. So, although American English is my native language, living here in Spain, I've been very fortunate to now speak Spanish fluently, Catalan, which is something that they speak in this area of Spain, as you know very as well as French for the time in France and Italian because of the time that I lived in Italy. So, yeah, now I'll be quiet. I promise. Over to you.
Bro, that's so impressive, man. I mean, I still struggle with Spanish, like, and I think obviously I could use more effort, but I'm very impressed. So that's awesome. All I
Thanks,
got over
man.
here. I think the first question I would ask is, and I think the audience wants to know is, you worked alongside some really big, heavy hitters. I'm curious what those relationships were like, or if you even have any insight on that. I mean, you're talking about Gates and Dell, like these are some big boys, the biggest in the world. What was that like? What was your relationship, or how were you involved with them?
Yeah. So the thing that happened at that point in life, because this was 21 to 26, and I had a really unique job. So I didn't get my dream job, as I mentioned before. And I worked for a company called Merits Incorporated, and I worked for the performance improvement company. And so what that meant was I had this really unique opportunity between ages 21 and 26 to travel with these top executives from all around the world. So, very fortunately for me, Mark, I didn't understand how influential they truly were, right? Because I would meet, Michael, or I would meet Ken Chenault, who was the CEO of American Express, while they were on meetings like outside of their offices. But it was really cool because I may see Michael in Austin, but then a couple weeks later in Buenos Aires. And then, the Ken Chenault, I would see him in New York City or then in Hawaii for their big financial advisors conference. And then would be with him, Dr. Kissinger, while they were in between Beijing and Hong Kong for board of directors meetings. So very fortunately, like I said, at between 21 and 26, I didn't recognize how important they were because it was almost like we were having really simple conversations because they would see me in multiple places around the globe. When these things began to happen for me, it wasn't until I actually started paying attention when I was in the airports that these people were on the front page of the USA Today, of the Financial Times, of the Wall Street Journal. And then it really started to click like, okay, well, yeah, I just see them while they're out or they're speaking with their spouses or they're speaking with the direct reports, but I didn't understand the magnitude of it. But what it did help me to understand was very early on, I began to see how they were managing their time. What were the different things that they were doing to remember and make people, maybe sharing a little bit too much for behind the scenes, but how they made people feel that they never forgot them, because there's a whole system around that, right? It wasn't just that they remember every single person because everybody knows who they are, but they don't necessarily know who everyone is. I'm not saying that they don't, but there are systems that they put in place to be able to help the team and help people recognize, oh, I felt seen. I know he remembers my story. Well, yeah, because he got a briefing a few minutes before we got here, and it's like a 10-minute brain dump. So not too much behind the scenes, but those were the types of things. So it was very, very influential for me to have direct contact with these global leaders and people. It also helped me recognize that not everyone is necessarily as nice as you see them on the cover of a magazine or in a soundbite, but those people, those leaders that do remember people, that do remember specific moments in time, it helped me to recognize from a leadership level, which I would then experience many years later, what were the things that I wanted to repeat and was very appreciative of, and what were the behaviors that I really didn't ever want to repeat because I saw the effect that it had on people who were within their direct span of control. Does that
And
answer your
that's
question?
Yeah, perfect. I mean, it's like a huge boot camp, right? You're being around these high level guys, and had the luck of being around a lot of high level guys in different areas as well. Mine was martial arts and stuff, and and I've coached a lot of professional athletes and CEOs myself, and it's and I want to share this with the audience because I think you would agree with me is that at the end of the day, these people are just people. And I think people like put them on such a pedestal. And when you look at them, they've put systems in place. They've gotten really good at doing one specific thing. And they've also really good at delegating and bringing the right people around them. The best people I know, they built the best team. They're not always the best person.
That's
And
it.
I think what I like to share that with the audience, because a lot of people have self-doubt, limiting beliefs, fears, and they think that these people just don't have that and they're just Superman or Superwoman. I'm like, nah, these are humans. They got really good at something. They got really good at something. And what is your thoughts on that? Them just being regular people? Because it never
Well,
bothered me to be around them.
no, yeah. So, and like I said, this is one of the greatest benefits that I had because I was around them at a very, very young and inexperienced age. So it was just, it was almost like that's what I knew as my first role out of college. So number one, yes, they absolutely are just people. They put their shoes on the same way all of us do. But what I would say, just to build on what you mentioned, Mark, is they are exceptionally good at understanding what they are good at and they focus on that thing, right? You talked about the fact that they are focused on one thing, and that one thing, it's very similar to I don't know if you're familiar with Marcus Buckingham. He's got a number of books. One that really changed the way that I lead and led during corporate. It's first break all the rules, which is understanding what your strengths are and lean in on your strengths. And I'm sure you see this all the time, Mark. Like people will say, "Hey, listen, what am I not good at?" And so let me fix that. It's like, well, hang on a second. It's like if you're a right-hander like me, it's like trying to make me have you write all day with your left hand. Like it sucks. It's going to get real hard and you're probably going to quit. So why don't we lean into all the things that you do well by writing with your right hand, get confident, get the reps, go over and over and over. And yeah, if there's a certain moment that you have to write with your left hand, do that. Or better yet, to your point, Mark, find someone who's really a good lefty and let them write that thing because they like
Yeah.
writing with their left hand anyway. They're going to love it. And then you are, from a leadership perspective, you're putting them in the right position to excel in something that they genuinely like doing anyway.
It's interesting because you work with a lot of high level CEOs and you see I think one of the biggest mentalities that separates the good from the great is that ability. There's a book called Who Not How. I'm sure you've read it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Dan Sullivan.
Yep. Yep.
And what you really realize, and what I've realized is, why am I even going to attempt to do something that not only I don't like, but I suck at when I could be what I'm really good at? And then I can just put all the right people in place. And I think there's this limiting mentality from the solopreneur kind of entrepreneurial vibe we have going on in 2026, which is like, I'm going to do all these things. And it's like, I'm not going to do shit. I'm going to
Yeah.
do what I'm really good at. And the
Yeah.
first thing I'm going to do as fast as I can is get somebody on my team, even if that's just an executive assistant.
Yeah. And the thing about that, Mark, a lot of that comes from having a scarcity mindset. It is, hey, I know that I'm not good at this, but I don't want to actually, one, give the responsibility to somebody else. That means you think that somebody else can't do it as well as you can. Scarce. I don't want to pay somebody else to do this job because I would rather sit here and go through each of the Excel spreadsheets and fill it out myself. Scarce, because you know what? You could probably, once again, it goes back to what we were just talking about. You could pay someone to do that Excel spreadsheet. They love doing it anyway. They're really good at it, and they're going to get it done a lot faster and more efficiently than you are. So move away from the scarcity mindset, because when you do that, you're actually providing, like, it's the abundance. You're actually pouring into the universe things that are going to come back to you tenfold. So when you try to do everything on your own, you're really just weighing yourself down, and you're usually doing 80% of the stuff that you don't like doing anyway. And there is this scarce mindset. And I put my hand up because I watched my parents work 2 jobs, Mark. I know it sucks when you are watching your parents go out there and just do every single thing just to make ends meet. And so you think keeping a hold of all the money, when you hold on to it, it's going to help make you better. Well, no, when you release it out into the universe, guess what happens? You're helping other people. It's an abundant mindset, and it's going to allow you to overcome that imposter syndrome. You can't do it. And also the scarcity mindset, because a lot of people don't even want to talk about it, but scarcity comes into so many facets of our being, and we've got to expose it. We got to get out there and we've got to let people know, like, your scarcity is holding you back. Get rid of it. Help someone else. Put the right energy into the ethos, and it comes back. It's so much better to do it that way. I'm not saying be irresponsible, Mark. Let me be real. So, because everybody's watching and listening around the globe, be responsible and work on that scarcity. And that's why we do what we do, is to help people recognize, put the mirror up to say, hey, this is holding you back.
You know this very well, but I don't think the audience does, is I've worked with a 25-year-old soccer mom who's scared to put herself on TikTok to a CEO who's trying to do a merger with Meta. And they're both scared. They're both in limiting beliefs. They both have scarcity. Their ceilings are just different. And so what you really start to see is, like, we just have different set points. And so what I love that you're talking about is the universe, is the manifestation side. And I think what people don't understand is high level guys, high level women, they believe in manifestation in the universe. They just don't lead with it, because you got to go out there and get shit done. And I think what I've seen is People don't realize there's an energy exchange in this world. Vibrations are real, frequencies real, positive abundance is real.
Yes, it
And
is.
also, it is the secret sauce to hard work. And what I've seen a lot in the space lately, which I pulled away from, was just this high level, like if you just have the frequency and you just float on the cloud, it's all going to come to you. And I'm curious your thoughts on that, because I'm what people might call woo woo, but I'll tell you right now, if you don't back that up with hard work, you're not going to get the results you want. And you see that a lot in the space today, don't you? Especially in the coaching world.
Well, absolutely. I mean, one thing is a mindset, and the other thing is actually following that mindset with the work. Because if you don't do the work, like to your point, I mean, you can read every single book. I mean, whether you are, and since you're talking about it, and we're talking about it now, whether you're like into an Abraham Hicks or a Dr. Joseph Murphy or Emil Fox, whatever, these are people that have already gone, or Neville Goddard. They've shown the path already, and it's just a matter of saying, okay, yes, you can sit there, you can think about it, but if you don't follow that up with action, I mean, you're frustrating yourself. Like, yeah, resistance comes in all the time, but what are you doing about it? Are you just gonna are you gonna be overcome with the resistance? Do you even recognize that it's resistance? Have you done any of the study? Have you been able to sit around and talk to people about what that actually means? What can you do to overcome the resistance? Is it a matter of going through the repetition? Because if you can just think about it, but you don't actually do it, it's like learning a language, right? I mean, this is something we can relate to. Like, yeah, it's,
Great
it's great
example.
if you learn the language, you've learned the theory. Well, yeah, you learn the theory. You've done 88 hours of Duolingo, but do you actually go out and talk to somebody? Because it's gonna not be easy. Like, I have made millions and millions of mistakes, and I am what I call a recovering perfectionist, Mark, because I got really good grades my entire life. And when I got rejected after my university, I realized, like, sucks. I didn't know how to deal with it. But then when you go through more and more and more and more rejection, the only way that you get better at that is going through the repetitions. You have to be bad before you can be good. You have to be good before you can be great. It's as simple as that. There's no way to recognize it that I know of other than doing the work.
I couldn't agree more. I think theory is a really good word to use right now, because I see this in academia. Oh, I'm this professor teaching business. Have you ever run around a business? I see these 22-year-old life coaches, kids, they're jacked and they're making 100 grand a month. And I'm like, hey, you are jacked. You did have some discipline there and you did build a funnel that's marketing solid. But have you actually ever experienced the reps of life? And I don't think people understand the difference in that. And even when it comes to speaking a language, I mean, I know so many people down here in Colombia that are crushing Duolingo on the English side, but they're afraid to speak because, Latins are a little more
Yeah,
shy
yeah.
when it comes to that. And you realize, like, it's all action. And listen, I listen to affirmations every morning, every night. I do prayers, I do meditation. I can tell you right now, if I had to choose that or action, I'd choose action any day. Because where do you think you're going to get if you're scared of something and you go out and continue to do it, don't you think that's how you're going to overcome it the best? And I think, yeah, it's an interesting society we live in today. I want your opinion on this. You're a little bit older than me, probably a lot wiser than me. You have a little bit more experience, and I'm just curious your thoughts, because I've had, and maybe it's my own issues projection, but there's a lot of guys out there today, I'm sure women too, but they're like 22, 23, 24, and they've got this awesome marketing, and they're talking about Carl Jung and overcoming life. And I'm like, but I look at their lives and I don't think they've ever been through anything hard. And we know that's when it counts, when you break and collapse. I'm curious your thoughts on this.
Yeah, man. We got 4 hours. Is that what this is? No, I'm
We got
messing
as
with
much
you.
as you want.
So no. So first of all, flattery will get you everywhere. But yeah, man. So it goes back to, and I'll just share a bit of my own story, right? I had so many years of getting many, many, many things right. And you get into a point in your life where you begin to believe that every single thing is going to go as it has always gone. And this was through, my mid 40s. But then you recognize at a certain point where, and I mentioned earlier, I went through two very, very challenging life events that for me, they were challenging life events, right? One was going through divorce. The other was going through a business partner situation. And what I realized is in those moments that so much of my life, so many people came to me to help. They came to me because they had to have issues solved. And I had a point of view and I tend to always get things right and blah, 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 blah. But it wasn't until I was in my own challenge, that 3-month period in 2023, where it was like, oh, hang on a second. Life is actually happening. What I believed at the time was to me. What I now understand is it was happening for me, because there were greater things that were on the horizon that I wasn't paying attention to because I hadn't had my ass kicked yet. And the thing that was what life, we talk about manifestation, we talk about these things. Sometimes you're asking for things that you don't even recognize what you're asking for. And so when you think that life is happening to you, you need some perspective, you need some time to help you understand that it's actually happening for you. So to your question of, have you been through enough of life? Maybe it's 22, maybe you've had a hard ass life. And by 22, you've experienced more than most people will experience until they're actually in their 30s, but or 40s, but you don't ever know that until you're actually sitting down and talking to that person. And this is the part where you get exposed if you pretend to be something that you're not. Yeah, I mean that's the and the worst thing that can happen to you is, yeah, you're this, you give me the 22-year-old who's pretending to have all this life experience and you're a life coach, but you're sitting down with someone who's 35 years old and has lived a similar type of life, but they've got 13 years of experience on you. And so if you can't help guide them through something, life situation, you're cooked. So the short-term gain that you had is going to be long-term misery, and it will take you many years to get back to the point that you thought you were. The thing that I would say is, life doesn't happen perfectly, never has, never will, and it's a matter of when you go through those moments that are challenging, how do you come out on the other side? One of the learnings that has happened for me in life is I realized the very big difference between one word, and it's between being able to sympathize with somebody and being able to empathize, because I've actually been in your shoes. And there is nothing that can help you to empathize with someone's situation other than having gone through the experience or something very similar yourself. So it's probably a long-winded answer, man, but it's just the life experience. And it's something that I've been through myself. And now that I recognize that all of these things happen for me, yeah, it's just that, and that's part of life. It's part of experience, and nothing happens in a straight line ever.
I agree. You made me think about the idea of empathy. And, sometimes I work with a lot of men, and I've never been in that corporate space. I never climbed the corporate ladder. I barely graduated high school and
Mm,
came from a pretty challenging life and background.
mhm.
And what you realize is the ability to empathize and hold space and be seen is priceless. And these men that I work with and women, they just like it's exactly what they need. And I think that unless you've experienced those things, you can't really speak on it. And it's a really interesting dichotomy too, Billy, because be careful what you ask for, right? You know, my mother used to say, like, don't pray for patience. God will bring you trials, right? And when I think about that is all of these things you say you want, right? I want to be the baddest, toughest, most patient. All of those are going to require things that are going to test you. And I always say people want to be the hero, but they don't want to walk the hero's journey,
Yeah,
and
buddy.
you want to be the best sailor on the planet, but you don't want to sail rough seas.
Yeah,
And
buddy.
what I've realized is that like the things that I've hated the most, I've learned to love the most
Hmm.
because they have crafted me and honed me into this person where I'm like, I have a different perspective on life. I have a different character, a different integrity, and people can feel that when they talk to me. And I could only have gotten that from all of these challenges. And my life was a little bit opposite of yours. Everything went wrong all the time for
Yeah.
a long time. And when that happens, you have to develop grit to get through it. And I think that's where real character is built, you know?
It's interesting, right? So, and the question would be, were things going wrong for you at that time? Or was that your path to you having such a unique insight and being able to help people that other people can't relate to? Other people haven't taken a moment to really understand or see what's happening. And that makes you uniquely qualified to empathize with somebody. And no one else is able to do that. It's like that's that whole thing when we look at the perspective on life. Right. I was going through it. I was like, man, this is absolutely terrible. And now with many years of perspective, and I'm sure that if you take a step back, that perspective is, this is part of the things that we're talking about, the theory. But then when you put it into practice, it's like, you know what, Mark, you are it, man. Because nobody else can help this person because they haven't been through their journey. They haven't walked in the doo-doo like you have. That at the time sucked. It was terrible. And now you're the only person that can help give that person the perspective or look them in the eye and say this story. And you're like giving so much detail. You're like, oh my God. Okay, Mark, I appreciate you sharing that with me. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's depth and time is what I thought of.
Yeah.
I think, some of our timelines are different, right? Like some young men are going to blow up in their 20s and 30s, and some men are going to take more time and they're going to have different characters. But when you look at the whole picture from if you're looking backwards in time, you're being prepared all the time.
That's it.
And I think if you go through really challenging times and you're very afflicted, I do think you're being prepared for great things. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that we want this depth, and we don't understand that this depth takes years and time and
Yeah.
years and time. And it is very challenging though, because I think as men, we want it now. We
Fast.
want to be
Yeah.
successful. We want to be seen. And it's funny, the older I get, the more time I feel I have, even though I know that's not true. And I know
Mhm.
some people say the opposite. Like, oh, I feel like I'm like, I don't. I've slowed down so much. I'm going, oh, I got all the time in the world. Like, relax. Like, if I could give any advice to the younger generation, it's like, tranquila. You're gonna get there. Like, poco y poco. Like, little by little, bro. You got like you got this. And I think that that is a big lesson that I think I wish I would have told my younger self. You know, take your
Yeah,
time.
and
You
it's
got
and
this.
that's so unique, and I'm glad that you're sharing that because it is when you have, and this is one of the, it's a key principle, when you have more control, truly have more control over your time. It's like when I'm working with clients who have normally that either they're in corporate and they're building a business on the side, or they've been from corporate and they're recently out of corporate, right? They're recently out of corporate and they're continuing to live their life in the exact same panic. Every 30 minutes, you're booked to a meeting, next meeting, next meeting, next meeting. And it's like, well, you don't have to live like that anymore. Now you control your time. It's not somebody else controlling your time. If you want to sit in silence for 2 hours, you've earned the right to do that. But when you're unfamiliar with being able to own your time for 2 hours, it's like, well, hang on a second. I'm unfamiliar with this feeling. This feels strange. I should be doing something every 30 minutes because every 30 minutes while I was in my corporate life, it was ding, 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 ding. The next meeting was stopping, and said, no, slow down. Now you control these 168 hours, the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's a process. That's where you need the help to say, hey, listen, you know what? Tomorrow I am just going to sit, and I'm going to sit for 3 hours, and it's okay. Because you're thinking, how can I help someone else? How can I get to the next phase or the next way that I'm going to be living or being? We spend so much time in the doing that we don't take enough time to actually just be.
You know, it's interesting because I work with like the number one issue I have with all of my clients across the board, especially the high performers, is I'm like, if you want to improve, you need to slow down. And that just, they don't know how
Counterintuitive.
to create, they not only is it counterintuitive, Billy, they can't,
Yeah, yeah.
they literally can't. They're going crazy. I got buddies like they buy a car every month. They are, or people have drug problems, or people have girl problems, or people like they just can't stop. And so what's interesting is, because I work in the exiting part of
Mhm.
businesses as well.
Yeah.
When these people exit, they lose their goddamn mind. They don't know what to do,
Now what do I do?
and they're lost. And it's like there's a friend of a friend right now. He just bought 2 Ferraris, a yacht, and he's in Aspen, hammered, right, on a ski trip. This is like 2 months ago with his family out skiing, and he's just a mess because he did a $200 million acquisition, and you're just like, bro, you're going to die. Your family's going to leave you. You're going to kill yourself.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, right? Because that person, right, in your world is very similar to the person who is in a corporate world. And what's happening, and we see it all the time, is every single day your phone rings because of the title you have. And whether it's because you're the senior vice president of sales or you're the founder of company XYZ, everyone comes to you. That over time becomes who you become. Like that is your identity, if you will, in the day that you are no longer, I mean, and I went through like, I'm not talking from other people. Like now it's easier for me to help because I can empathize because I've been through it myself, right? It's just one of these things. And it's like the day you leave your corporate role or the day you exit your company, your phone stops ringing. People don't need you like they did before. You thought you were the center of the universe. That's for if you're in a corporate life, much less if you found your own company. It's your blood, sweat, and tears that you poured into forever. Your family knows exactly who you are. You're a pillar in the community. Everybody that all of these people's paychecks and their benefits and the life that they had, all of that depends on you. And the day that you exit your company or the last day that you're in your corporate job, the phone stops ringing. The emails, they're not dinging in your inbox anymore because a part of your identity has now moved on. So the question is, now what? Now what? And how are you sitting in the silence that you talked about before? How are you now embracing that time that you have so that you're optimizing it for yourself? And recognizing that your identity is beginning to change, is beginning to shift, and be okay with that. Yeah, it's definitely something people don't talk enough about. We talk about, I love that you're talking about it here because you talk about it when someone is either part of your program or they're in that, but let's share it now, man. Like you don't have to, we don't need to hold back. This is the point of sharing.
I agree. And I just, speaking to the audience is like, I was doing a workshop for a long time called What's Next? Redefining
Mm,
Success. It was for athletes, entrepreneurs, and executives.
hmm
And, whether you're, a corporate person going to entrepreneurship, that's a huge shift. Whether you're an operator going to real life, you're an athlete going to real life, those identities are insane. What people don't realize is just like the soldier comes back from war or even just retires, he no longer has his team,
That's it.
all of his support. The athlete that's got 20 guys around him that are trainers, team members, coaches, gone. And then also, you said something really interesting that one of my basketball players told me. He's like, you're no longer the hero. You were the hero, your dad, your husband, and you're this pro athlete playing NBA. And now you're just a regular ass dude. And unless you're LeBron James or on that level, you're just a regular ass guy. No one's going to remember you.
Man.
You're just another player. And you were just this icon. And I think that it's so challenging on the identity side. And I think men suffer that a little more than women, but I think both of us do. And, it's just such an important part of going through that transition early. I work with a company called the Honor Foundation, and we work with special operators rotating back 18 months out. And they do that for a reason, right? Because, and if you want me to link you with them, I will.
Mm.
The thing about it is these special operators, they're going to go through some major shifts and changes into reality, and they don't like, what's their skill set? You know what I mean? Rating
Yeah.
houses.
Yeah.
So it's,
And then what?
and then what? And then you know what you see too? Another thing that I think you'll love about this that I just, it drives me crazy because it's like the athlete becomes a commentator. The special operator becomes a contractor. I'm like, bro, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
But they only do what they know. And you could have millions of dollars and you can't expand enough to like, bro, you go open up a fishing boat in Sardinia if you wanted to. What do you want?
What do you want?
And they don't know. They don't
Well,
know.
and you find that a lot of it because, initially, no, it's almost like when you're in your corporate role, I see it all the time too. Like, okay, well, you go from salesperson to frontline sales manager to director to VP to SVP. And it's like, well, what are you actually taking the role for? Well, because it's the next thing you're supposed to do. Well, says who? Like,
Exactly.
and I'll share this story. I didn't realize it was happening for me at the time, right? So this is just with some perspective that I realized it was happening. When I was in corporate, I remember, so I had this really difficult time where I missed my son's third birthday party, right? I'm a young dad, and it ties in really well with what you're talking about. Like I remember, right? Because I have these childhood dreams or childhood traumas probably where I was thinking like, I don't want to ever be financially needy because I thought that money solved all problems because that was usually the problems that my parents were having was around money. And so I thought that that would solve all problems. And so things were going and, I'm married, 2 kids, my son's third birthday party. And I remember waking up super early in the morning, like it was because we're living in Barcelona, Spain, the business meeting. It was an executive business meeting that was happening in Germany. I made up some excuse to not be there the night before because people were there. And I knew that I wanted to see my son on his third birthday. So I got up early in the morning. I woke up at probably 5:15, woke the family up. My boy's mom was there. My youngest is, everybody's going crazy, right? Nobody is awake at 5 o'clock in the morning in Barcelona at all, right? And so I'm waking up the whole family.
They
and
just went to bed.
Right, exactly. And I'm waking the family up so everybody sing happy birthday, and as we're singing happy birthday, everything was great. I saw him, and then I'm on my way to the airport, and literally, like, my heart sinks as I leave our flat because we're in a typical flat here, and I'm in the elevator on the way down, and like my heart was just crushed. And I share that with you because I got on that plane and I took the flight because I was operating under somebody else's rules. Like I was in that meeting in Germany because I chose to be there. I didn't need to, like, don't get me wrong. This is a first world problem. This is not like I have a job that I had to absolutely be there. It was requested I was there. I thought it was going to be the right thing, the right alliances, all this kind of stuff. But I was doing that so that I could get the next role, like the next thing. That wasn't because of what I really wanted. It was because that was what everybody else had to do. And it wasn't until like very little after that, Mark, that I realized like, hey, listen, I don't actually want that next role. What I wanted was to be able to own my time. I wanted to be able to know that I could generate my own income. And so that's when I started to recognize that I had a really random conversation with one of my bosses who was buying rental property. And so I ended up investing a lot in rental properties while I was working my job. And so I had taken this role and I was on that flight so that I could move up the ladder. But really, thankfully, that heartbreaking moment happened with me and for me with my son, because that heartbreak, like that was the And I don't wish it for anybody, but that's the thing that changed for me. Like, it wasn't about moving up the path and following everybody else's definition of what success was. It was for me being able to say, I want to own more of my time. I want to build my business. I want to be able to generate my own income on top of what I'm doing at my day job. And so I stopped actually on that path that was supposed to be what everybody else was doing. I stopped on that path. I didn't take any more promotions. I was an individual contributor for the last 7 years of my corporate career. But in that last 7 years of my 26-year corporate career, for the last 4 years, I didn't even need my paycheck, because the businesses that I was building on the side with the extra energy and the time I was pouring in building a new skill set, and it was now saying, well, I don't need somebody else's definition. So what? I didn't become the general manager or the managing director of a big geography. I own my time. I was able to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it with whom I wanted to do, because I didn't worry about just getting my paycheck anymore. And so when you stop playing that game of you've just got to do the next thing because that's what everybody else says that you have to do, it gives you such a feeling of confidence. Even if you don't have the amazing title, you've got control of the most important asset there is on earth, which is your time. And that's what I started recognizing. Like, I don't need to keep following everybody else's rules. That, yeah, they may think I'm not as successful, but I can do what I want when I want.
I want to dive into that, your transition. I think that's kind of the next step of this. But I do want to say one thing first is, what people underestimate is there's a high level of autonomy and responsibility that is required for you to shut out all the noise, and especially now with social media, and to say, hey, you know what? What do I want? And so I sit down with these people that you think know exactly what they want. And they're like, oh, these are high level people. These are celebrities. I'm like, they don't know what the fuck they want. They were on the same path you were, just doing everything they thought they were supposed to do. And so I think when you really, this is why, and I know, Billy, you agree, you have to slow down.
Hey,
you have to slow down enough. And you know what slowed you down? Your kid.
Heartache.
Yeah, your heartache. So whether it's a divorce, your kid, it's an accident, your mom dies, and you can finally go, wait a minute, what am I doing here? What is all this about? What's important in my life? And I'll just say this last piece that I've been harping on the podcast and on social media is, Andrew Tate's a really big character, and you see him starting to soften up a bit. Talk about family more. And I'm saying these are young men in their 20s and 30s talking shit, and they're going to see later, like, oh, that's not going to get me what I want. Alex Hormozi had a podcast with Anthony Robbins, Tony Robbins, and really Tony looks him in the eye and goes, "Fuck your suffering, bro." You know. And what you start to see is, and Alex preaches this. Yeah, he preaches this. He goes, nobody cares, work harder. That's what you're telling the younger generation. And so what I've learned from all of that is that, you guys, what do you actually want your life to look like without any of the noise? If a woman wants to be a mom and stay at home, let her do it. If she wants to be a Navy SEAL, let her do it. But what do you want? And the noise is so loud now. We had our parents and a couple of maybe people on TV and shit, but the noise now is so loud, I don't think people know what they want. So if you want to comment on that, that's great. But I do want to move into how you separated yourself from corporate.
Yeah, man. So, and I'll just say this really quickly. So, understanding what you want, and I'm sure that you've seen a lot of this too, man. When you are a high achiever, and it's the same right now, male clients, female clients, when you have taken on this role of provider, there's also another thing. So one, there's what I call the corporate busyness, not corporate business, corporate busyness. It keeps you so busy that you never think about what it is that you want to be able to do or with whom, because you're going from, like I said, every 30 minutes, you're on something new. But there's also this whole concept of when you're the provider, you take care of everybody else first. You have nothing left for yourself. You spend every single bit of energy, money on everybody else. What everybody, probably usually people that want you the most, they get scraps because you are spent. You've never taken care of yourself because you're taking care of everybody else all the time, all day, every day for such a long time. And one of the things we have to start to realize is that if you don't put yourself first, I'm not saying be selfish. I'm saying take care of yourself, your mind, your energy, your time. It's almost impossible for you to be able to help others, to be there for others. And so it is one of those things that it's okay to figure out what it is that you want and be able to focus on that, because knowing you're going to focus on other people anyway. So it's about how do you become the best version of yourself so that you can exponentially pour into other people. At least it's what I've found to be the case, especially when it comes to high achievers. I don't know if that, hopefully
and you know the answer to that. And the answer is you have to slow down. and sit there and be like, what do I need? What does my family need? Why am I doing this? What's really important? When I'm 80 years old, am I going to look back and be mad that I missed that promotion? Be mad that I missed my kid's birthday? What really matters? I will admit there is a little bit of a movement around that I've seen. A lot of high level guys that are winning, like like what's his face just won the Masters, I think, and he's like, it's just a tournament. Sean Strickland just won the UFC belt. It's just a belt. Ebom just won the Mr. Olympia. What? Oh, it's just a whatever show. So I really do think that we are starting to wake up a little bit. So.
I'm from Ohio, and so it's one of these things where it's like we were on this streak where we Ohio State and in that team up north, as they call it in American football, there were so many years where we were winning, and we meaning Ohio State, not that I play on the team or anything, but then there were like 3 years in a row where we lost, and it became the mentality of, well, things started to change this year because it just became another game. It's not like the game every single day. All you're doing is thinking about this, that. It's relax, get into your flow. Don't get super stressed about it. Focus on it, because when you do everything and you practice in a certain way and you are acting and being in a certain way, then it just becomes another thing, right? Instead of the
Flow
thing.
state, bro.
Yeah,
Flow
flow.
state.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Talk to me about, you're this badass enterprise sales. I think you said $500 million in sales or something like that. It was crazy. I don't know. And now you're like, you know what? This isn't the path. I want my own time, my own freedom, my kids. I want, and you help people do this, but I want to hear your story on how you did it.
Yeah. So, it really started on that day in October of 2012 that I mentioned earlier, when I missed my son's 3rd birthday party. That started it. And fortunately for me, a few months, or actually, no, because I'm a recovering perfectionist. I was a procrastinator. I knew what I could have done. And for 5 years, I was stuck in the theory. So the things I'm sharing right now, Mark, it's not that I'm just trying to share and it's from theory. Like, I've lived a lot of this stuff, which is also when I'm empathizing with my clients. It's not because I've read the book on it. It's like I made the same mistake. So I don't want them to make the same mistake. I overthought this thing for 5 years. My son's birthday, missing his 3rd birthday party, is the thing that put me into action, going from theory to action. And then I started learning about how I could generate more income. And for me, it started out in rental real estate. I started there. I was living in Europe, investing 100% back in the United States, got to a point where I had, through a lot of different trials and tribulations, you finally had 41 different doors, they call them, or streams of income that were coming in while I was earning in a multiple 6-figure salaried position. But in the beginning, I was just doing it because I wanted more money, because that was the thing that I thought was going to keep me safe. But once I realized that it wasn't just buying more properties or having more money in my bank account. It was actually, I was using the same skill set that I was using in my corporate role, because it was about leadership. It was about using money to gain more money, to be able to attract new clients who are residents in the places that I was owning. And a lot of these same transferable skills I was using to build something that was actually hitting my bank account that I was generating. So I was much more confident. And like, the thing that I didn't realize was having my own business on the side, it actually made me a much more confident person when I went into my corporate role, because I didn't have to listen to anybody's crap. For me, it was about, hey, this is something that I know, or something that I learned from being outside of the corporate constructs, I could actually bring into my frame of thinking or my way of being. And then once I didn't need my paycheck anymore, oh man, the game changed. It wasn't that it was an arrogance thing. It was just, you know what? I missed my son's 3rd birthday party, but now I'm not getting on any plane because I don't want to go. And it's not to say that I didn't ever go, but if there was something that was in my responsibility and I knew that I absolutely needed to be there, i.e. I was going to sit down with the CEO of another company because we were doing something, if I had to have gone, I would have gone. But at that point in time, it was much easier for me to say, you know what, that day doesn't work for me. Let's schedule around that. Because a lot of times we tend to think we have to do it this way. We always have to do it this way. I have to do 80 hours a week to get my job done. Well, says who? Is it in the corporate guidelines you have to do 80 hours a week? No, I think most roles is about, at least the senior leaders that are in big companies that I work with, it's about what are the outcomes that you're producing, that your role is producing. Not even you. Let me say your role is producing. Not the hours that you're putting in, because nobody cares about that. You could be inefficient. Let's be efficient and get the right outcomes in the right amount of time, right?
Where is that coming from, Billy?
It's an identity. It's an identity.
Is it culture with identity? Is it the grind? I got to work 80 hours a week to look like a badass. I'm curious. Where's that coming from?
Well, I believe that it's a lot of it is the identity that you believe that if I'm not available, if I don't respond in 2 minutes, that I'm going to be perceived as not as committed to the job. Says who? Well, my boss will say, did your boss ever really say that? No, but I know that if I don't, well, do you think they want a fast answer or they want a comprehensive, solid answer? Even if it, rather than responding at 11:32 p.m., how about you have a good think about it, have a comprehensive response, and it comes in the morning at 9:02?
So how much of that comes from the idea of the identity of the culture, or how much of that comes from them literally probably being insecure and scarcity inside?
No, it's 98% the person. Yeah, just to be
Yeah.
real clear, this is 98%. This is a self-inflicted type of behavior. This is not, because it's not in the company guideline. That's the whole thing, Mark. Like, we've made up these stories to say, yeah, it says that you have to do that, or yeah, everybody has to be around. Well, says who? Have you ever sat down with your leader, your direct line manager or report, and said, what is it that you really need from my role? What do you need from me? Would you rather have fast responses or complete responses? Because you can't have both. And the more that you have autonomy, and this is where, you're asking me about like what I was doing and having what I call reached a point of optionality where I didn't need my job because I didn't need my paycheck for the last 4 years of my corporate experience. Well, when you
That's
get to
awesome.
that point, then you don't have to worry about what the backlash is going to be. What's the worst that can happen? You're going to get a reprimand. You think they're really going to fire you if you are an overachiever? Well, no, it's just about having a conversation. Have the conversation. And as you're having the conversation, ask the questions. What are the most important things for your boss or for your direct report or whoever you are, reporting to, or is important for you? But you have to have that level of confidence, and that's one of the things that happened over that period of time that I was building the business on the side and having these positive experiences. Not all of them perfect, right? There's always going to be trials and tribulations along the way. But having started that, one of the things that I didn't recognize was going to be a positive impact was the way that it helped me as a person and the confidence that I entered my job every single day in the role and the ability to truly speak my mind and not have to feel like I had to say yes when I clearly saw that it wasn't the right thing for either the company or a decision. Maybe they went against what I thought anyway, but I felt much truer to myself and the person that I was and that I am.
It's so interesting how assumptions can be such a challenging part of all relationships, whether that's intimacy, whether
Mm,
that's friendships, partnerships. And I think I've seen so many people like, if you just sit down with other people and have a solid conversation, and also if you just sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and yourself and have some conversations with yourself a few times, you'd be surprised how many problems in your life you can actually solve and how this brain of ours spins out of control. And I think that's why you and I are such huge advocates of advisorship, of mentorship, of coaching, because I mean, I consider myself a high level guy. I can't coach myself to save my life, bro. I need to call you and be like, yo, can I bounce this off of you? And you're like, Mark, what's going on? And I don't think people realize like our brains are just like sometimes our worst enemy, right? I remember my former business partner, our last business, she used to call it the asshole brain. And it kind of is sometimes,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Yeah, there's these things that sometimes I sit down and I am talking to, because people are like, well, you actually have advisors, you have coaches. Well, of course I do in different parts of my life, because not everybody knows every single thing. And I sat the other day and I was in a session and the coach, she was asking me a question and I said, shoot, this is just a self-limiting belief, isn't it? She looked at me like, yeah, yeah. So it's it's like sometimes it's so obvious when it's somebody else in a particular aspect and maybe one of the things. And so it's just, yeah, I mean, it is important to always be investing in yourself, always looking for how you can, well, I guess not for everybody, but for me, that's the thing that's really, really important is how do I continue to have somebody help me to have that mirror that's in front of me. And yes, I can write down certain questions and ask myself certain questions, just like you're saying. And and at the same time, there's nothing like having someone that has walked the path that you've walked, which goes back to the whole thing we were talking about in the very beginning, Mark, which is empathy. They can truly empathize. They're not just making up stuff that they read on the internet, but they've been down the path because it's just going to help you. Like they care. They want to contribute. Like I love contributing to my clients, people that I know, friends, family. It's just a way of being able to be abundant.
I agree. I was just thinking about something, a client of mine, I won't reveal too much, but they just did a big $50 million deal with a big athletic team. And, he said, Mark, you can't see the label while you're inside the jar. And,
Mm,
it really resonated with me. And I would tell anybody out there, listen, I'm not saying you can't improve on your own, but if you want to be the best version of maybe your body, maybe your mind, maybe your business, maybe your sales, your relationship, your marriage, your kid, I say that I would always seek wisdom mentors, coaches, advisors, and it is priceless to have somebody mirror back to you what you can't see
Yeah.
and give you perspective and hold that space for you to do that. And then jump on your ass and be like, all right, now let's go take some action.
That's
And I
it.
think that, people like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's, because I've coached more women than men. And I think that's because women are a little bit more vulnerable and willing. But I'm like, all you men look up to Ronaldo, Messi, Tyson, LeBron, whatever, right? All of those people have a plethora of coaches honing them their whole lives. If you look up to them, I want the audience to hear this. If you look up to the best of the best, they are seeking wisdom and getting coaches, and they hire consultants all the time.
All the
It's
time.
just amazing to me how I don't know if there's a shame around it as men, but like, you want to be the best, find some, and also get some peers that
Yeah.
are at that level that can keep holding you accountable and reflecting back to you,
That's
As
it.
you said, you built this peer group in the last 3 years that's probably much stronger than you had in
Yeah.
previous years.
For sure. For sure. Because why? Because I'm doing it intentionally now. Before I was just drifting. I was just going through the motions. Now I realize like I am very intentional about the way that who I surround myself, the energy that they have. Like I, my friends laugh at me, or some of them laugh and some think that there's just something wrong with me. But I said, guys, I am just ignorant when it comes to what's happening in the world. They said, what do you mean? I don't watch the news. What do you mean you don't watch the news? I said, no, I protect my brain. They said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, usually if something's going to happen, if it's something that is either extremely, extremely great or not nice or not great, I'm going to find out about it anyway because everybody's talking about it. But in the meantime, I'm going to protect what goes into my brain, because if I intentionally allow, meaning sitting in front of the television, letting things go into my brain that I know are going to be 90% terrible, then I am not doing my job to protect my brain. And so, yes, I limit what goes into my mind because it helps me to have better outputs from a better place, from a more energetically positive place. And I would rather have that and be surrounded by people who are of a similar mindset and be very intentional. I am done floating in life and just going through what is the next thing just because everybody else is doing it.
And people wonder though, Billy, they wonder like, I don't understand why my life is that way. I'm like, I could tell you right now if you want to hear it, like I just wrote something down, protection. Protect yourself from people, ruthless with your time. Protect yourself from everything you absorb, from the music you listen to the TV you watch, to your social media feed. Social media by far is the worst thing in the world for your brain. Sure, you can curate a few pieces of information that give you some stimulation, but the rest of it is either going to bring you totally down because it's depressing or make you feel not enough because like we're so up here and you're not,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
want to share this as well. You said something that's really intelligent. And I want to point it out. Intention. So I got a buddy named Rob, who's actually a client now. He went from Medellin to Madrid. He just got there. And we talked about him, he's in high ticket sales and he wants to kind of move into maybe events because he just loves doing events.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, wouldn't it be cool if one day I could do like an F1 event in Monaco or something like that? Because he just loves F1, right? And he goes to a city in Colombia that he wasn't going to go to when he left Buenos Aires to this city. And he meets a girl and then he comes to Medellin. It was just a random 1 week stop. This woman introduces him to a girl in Madrid who does events for F1. And he's been there for 4 days. You tell me manifestation and intention of your time isn't real, bro.
Yeah. No,
come on, man.
It's for sure. And it's one of these things as well. Like I used to say, if you can't see it, you can't believe it. And now it's like, you don't have to see it. You just have to think it. You have to imagine it, because everything that exists in the world came from someone's imagination. They didn't see it before, but they imagined it. They thought it through. And the more that you can put your energy there, I mean, we're talking about Dr. Joseph Murphy earlier. It's like the power of your subconscious mind. It's like, yes, there are things that are happening here, but if the seeds that you are planting in your garden don't like enter in the right way, then it's never going to happen. But if you don't have any of the resistance and the imagination that you put, or what the things that you want, and you have to do the work. Your friend got on planes, trains, and automobiles. Like, he didn't just sit in his room and go, hey, I'm thinking of this thing. He took action. He didn't know, but he put himself in motion. You have to be in motion or nothing happens.
Totally.
And there you go. So to me, that's not surprising at all. Like, it just seems like a normal day.
And I agree. And I'll tell this to the audience right now, is that you are a creation machine, literally. And I can't promise you all your dreams will come true if you manifest and believe it, but I can promise you if you don't believe it's possible and you don't imagine it, it 100% won't come true. So let's leverage the bet here, right? And what's worse, I tell people all the time, let's pretend we're all in this beautiful, positive, abundant space and none of that shit comes true. At least you lived a joyful life. At least, I think what I've learned the most is just the simplicities of life, walking with the sun on your face. You're like, why are you in Medellin, Colombia? I don't love the culture. I struggle dating here because it's just not my vibe. And dude, all the dudes are down here for the hot girls. I'm like, because of the weather. I'm like, I wake up every day and it's 75 degrees. The sun is on my face and it brings joy to my life. And I think people don't realize like that sun turns you on.
Mm,
And so if I think we can just live in those abundant states, worst case scenario is you just live a little bit more joyful life.
yeah. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man.
It's funny. I don't know. I'm going to actually probably wrap this up because we're at an hour, but I just want to ask you, I could say, what's the best advice you ever got? Or I could say something like that, but I'm just curious, what is your message to anybody listening that maybe from your heart says, like, this is just something I just want to share with the people so they know?
One of the biggest realities for me is that no matter what has happened in the past, nor what's happening right now or what will happen in the future, which doesn't even exist yet, every single thing is just a moment. Every single thing is just a moment. And what I mean by that is, like I shared with you, like a moment, another defining moment in my life in 2023, because when everything went really, really well, I didn't pay enough attention when things were going well. Because when things are going well, by definition, you're just like, oh, this is cool. I'm just going to be boom. And it seems like it goes by like that. But when I was in a very challenging time in my life and I didn't give other people the opportunity to know what was happening with me, pour into me, I realized that those troughs, those moments in the valley, they feel like they can go on forever, forever, unless you realize that it's just another moment. Like it is just a moment. And so whether you're really, really high or really, really low, I would say to remember that it's just a moment. Like I tell myself that all the time now. I'm living another moment. It's happening to me right now, but I know when I go through it, I'm going to realize why it's happening for me. I can't understand it now, but I'll realize it with time. But you got to get
Doesn't
through
that
this
make you
moment.
so much more stable and grounded too? Because you can kind of give yourself grace and go, oh, this too shall pass. This is going to pass, And I think, you're talking about big things. I even think the daily up and downs of our emotions. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to feel like this tomorrow. I'm just having a bad day, you know?
Yep. Yeah, yeah. I have a really great buddy of mine. We have this thing, and it's like sometimes when things go the way that you're not expecting them, you say, well, this is kind of predictable, and it helps you move on. No, this was predictable. Just kind of move on. So yeah, that's the thing.
I think of, do you know Jocko Willink?
Yeah.
He wrote The
Yeah.
Navy SEAL. He's
Yeah.
always like, good, and I think
Good.
when I think about it, it's like, well, like anything that's happening, my wife divorced me. Good. You're going to
Yep.
learn something from that. Oh,
Yep.
like I got sick. Good.
Good.
And what you realize is life is not going to stop at what people might call attacking us.
Yeah.
Your attitude towards it is what matters, and I'm sure you've read the 15 laws of conscious leadership and just that idea of it's happening to me, it's happening for me. So, and I think that's what's been maybe the theme of our conversation today is it is happening for us, and kind of we started out with that. It's funny to circle back, but I just want you to let the audience know, like, you basically help people go from corporate to entrepreneurship, earn their time, or I guess win their time back, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? How can they work with you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, man. So there's a couple, and I know we should have one way, right? But I'm just intentional about the thing. So if the things that I've talked about, especially when I like to talk about you're in a state of optionality. That means that you are in your role, you like it, and you want to feel like you're not obliged to go every day. You want to be able to go in because you want to go in and tackle whatever the role has for you. So if you're interested in knowing like a very proven path, the one that I follow, the way that hundreds of other people are following today, just go to makeitoptional.com. There's a guide there. It'll talk you through exactly. And then you find out more ways to be able to get in touch. If you're also a big LinkedIn person, you can go to Billy Keels. I think I'm the only Billy Keels in Barcelona, Spain. Just do me a favor. Let me know that you've already heard Mark and I having this conversation. Chew the fat. The personalized introductions always get read by me or my team fat sooner. And yeah, other than that, I've got a podcast as well, the Go Along podcast with Billy Keels. You can check it out. I talk about a lot of the things that you and I are talking about now as it relates to being in a corporate role and being able to carve your own path and billykeels.com. So those are the
Awesome.
ways those are the best ways, man. But hey, Mark, listen, man, I gotta say, man, this is, I love your energy. I love what you're doing here, that you're bringing these conscious conversations to the forefront, that you are embracing them. And I just, I do want to say, man, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to share with you and your entire audience, man. It means a lot. Thank you.
I appreciate the kind words, and the feeling is completely mutual. It's been awesome to have you, brother. Seriously. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.